Welcome back to Crystal Clear. I'm AwestruckVox, and one of the creepiest takeaways from Familiar were the talking walls and blinking statues. Ugh. Yeah, it seems as if the entire fandom has come together and are all in agreement. Yeah, we finally know what gem harvesting is. And we at the Roundtable agree. This sentient architecture is a result of gem harvesting. So I want to give you guys a full rundown of what we believe gem harvesting is, why it exists, and can it be undone? Now, spoiler warning if you haven't seen the latest episode, or if our theory is a bit too on the nose. Ready, set, go. So the term gem harvesting was first mentioned in the episode Kaitrin release. After Steven unbubbled Peridot, she looked around the burning room to find the hundreds of gemstones bubbled, exclaiming, "You're going to harvest me?" To which Steven was very confused. But that line stuck out to many viewers. And since then, we've been on our toes, waiting for gem harvesting to be mentioned again. We thought it was going to come into play in the episode titled Gem Harvest, but all we got instead was a nice Thanksgiving special. Thanks, Steven Universe. But I believe it was alluded to one more time. In the episode Stuck Together, Aquamarine taunts to Steven, "You think shattering's bad? Wait until the diamonds get their hands on you." But before she can finish her threatening sentence, her and Steven are interrupted by the discovery of Lars on the ship. At the time of this episode's release, I believed Aquamarine was alluding to corruption, but we now know Homeworld is unaware what corruption is, as Yellow and Blue Diamond intended for their attack to wipe out all of the gems on the planet. And while there could be other forms of torture on Homeworld, with the information we have now, gem harvesting could have been the likely conclusion Aquamarine was referring to. Now, one of the many definitions for harvest is to remove cells, tissues, or an organ from a person or animal for transplantation or experimental purposes, which aligns with what we saw in Familiar. I believe gem harvesting is removing the gemstone from the gem's physical form, i.e. poofing them, and then applying said gems to other structures or objects. For example, lapis lazuli. Her gem being used to power a mirror being trapped inside of it for thousands of years was a form of gem harvesting. And many fans believe the sand pillow gem we saw in Steven's lion could have been in a similar state to lapis, and another example of gem harvesting. So where do these talking walls and blinking statues come into play? How does Homeworld get to this point? Why harvest a gem instead of shattering them outright? We saw lapis was used as interrogation during her time powering the mirror, but what about the common Homeworld gem? While we know off-color gems are shattered outright, I believe if a gem has poor performance, let's say they failed a mission, perhaps they were an insufficient kindergartner, I believe they would be put on trial, get assigned a Zircon, and go through the entire process we saw Steven go through during his own trial. At the end of the trial, the diamonds would conclude if the gem should be shattered or harvested, and if it's the latter, the gem is then poofed and sentenced to an eternity of serving the diamonds. With the walls or statue, I believe the gemstone remains intact and encased in a mold, one made out of a material strong enough that a gem just can't reform out of it. Once they're placed inside the mold, they're stuck there. There's nothing they can do. And they carry out their sentence as living architecture. They fail to fulfill whatever duties they were assigned on Homeworld, but they can't fail just sitting there and looking pretty, which is the only thing they're allowed to do. Hence why when Steven noticed the walls were sentient, they all cease their conversation amongst one another, one even blushing after Steven acknowledges their sentience. And they're lucky it was Steven walking down those halls. Should it have been someone like Yellow Diamond, they could have been disciplined through rather painful methods. Or perhaps at that point, they're already on a one strike and you're out system, where Yellow Diamond would remove them from the wall and shatter their gemstone outright. It also appears as if the diamonds prefer some sort of order, which is why we see the same cut of gems on the walls. So the next one or two of that gem to mess up will find themselves as the new addition on that wall, damned to an eternity of eavesdropping and gossip. However, the statues may be a different story, as many of them sport gemstones we're familiar with, but look totally different. I think these statues are abstract and serve to be more aesthetically pleasing if anything. So the actual gemstones giving these statues sentience may not reflect what the gems truly look like. And it's also why some of these statues look like fusions. The one in Pro's projection from the episode Cheeseburger Backpack comes to mind, or the destroyed statues near the abandoned kindergarten we saw in Off Colors. Homeworld's find cross-gem fusions absolutely disgusting unless they're statues that they design. It's kinda hypocritical, but hey, at least they acknowledge they look cool. Ultimately, Homeworld's doing this because if a gem isn't effective but isn't performing up to their standards, they're still perfectly adequate gems. The diamonds can get some mileage out of them, and there's essentially a no risk factor by just keeping them as decoration. Of course, this begs the question, can they be freed? I believe they can. Just like how Steven removed lapis from the mirror, if Steven demolished any of these structures, or successfully removed any of the gemstones, we would suddenly have dozens of gems running around screaming, "We're free! We're free! Praise be Pink Diamond!" Which may be something we actually see happen happen down the line, once Steven catches on to everything, believing all gems deserve to choose their own destiny. So they definitely shouldn't be some 4th grader's arts and crafts project. With all this said, it's likely the Diamonds wouldn't want to shatter Rose Quartz, but rather the original plan before Steven's trial was to harvest his gemstone. I can imagine them plopping some Rose Quartz statue in the middle of Homeworld, where different members from every court could just throw tomatoes at it or something, you know. Really make Rose suffer because she would be immobile. Well, in this hypothetical scenario, even if they removed the gemstone from Steven, regardless of what would happen to him, they would see the gemstone and go, oh my god, that's pink. However, all this talk of sentient statues and architecture really makes us look back at the episode Indirect Kiss, where Steven believed he momentarily saw a Rose Quartz statue move out towards him, extending their hand out to pull him up. Who knows? Maybe that statue was alive, or maybe it was a figment of his imagination. I guess we may never know. But it really makes you put everything into context. But I think I rambled on long enough. What do you guys think? Are these talking walls and blinking statues harvested gems? What kind of gems do you believe they are? Maybe the yellow walls are possibly pyrite. That's a yellow gem that was name dropped in the episode. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, or let us know on social media at Roundtable Vids. You can also get my hot takes at AwestruckVox on both Twitter and Instagram. If you want to help the Roundtable grow, you can either become a member of the channel or support us on Patreon. Get access to exclusive perks. Link in the description. If you enjoyed this video, please throw it a like, share, and if you're new here, subscribe. Hit that bell for notifications, stay in the loop of all things Steven. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have an awesome day. AwestruckVox, out.